Good afternoon. I'm George Latimer, Westchester County Executive, and I welcome you to the rotunda of the Westchester County Board of Legislators chambers here on the 8th floor of our county office building at 148 Martine Avenue. I'm joined by Deputy County Executive Ken Jenkins. There was a time when Ken was chair of this honorable legislature. His picture's up there on the wall, and so is mine from my tenure here. But today we are visitors to join our colleagues in the Board of Legislators to sign into law legislation that came from the Board of Legislators, members' energy and their activity. And I think it's an important symbolism to understand that when the idea comes from members of the legislature, we come to the legislators' chamber to sign this into law. It is the respect between the two branches of government that I think we want to exemplify here in Westchester County, and hope that at other levels of government they will emulate, that we can work together for the benefit of all people. I'm joined, and you'll hear in a second, by the person who is currently responsible for this institution, the chair of the Board of Legislators, Vidat Gashi. David Imamura, who is one of the lead sponsors of this, will speak also, but every member of the Board of Legislators who's here will be invited to say a few words on this piece of legislation. We are joined, additionally, by legislators Erica Lang-Pierce, Tyree Woodson-Samuels, who is the majority leader of the board, James Nolan, who is the minority whip of the board, Jewel Williams-Johnson, who heads the Budget and Appropriations Committee, Nancy Barr, legislator, who's a former vice chair of the board, Catherine Parker, a former majority leader of the board, David Tubiolo, legislator from Yonkers, legislator Judah Holstein from Eastchester, New Rochelle, and if I missed anybody, we'll be sure that the chairman will catch them when he has this opportunity. This particular measure that is before us to sign into law is a safety measure for survivors of domestic violence. This provides free lock changes and the installation of a home security camera at domestic violence survivors' homes. And this is an essential way to provide protection for those who have suffered and are still under the threat of potential domestic violence. Robbie Schlaff, who's director of our Office for Women, has highlighted the importance of us taking action both administratively and legislatively to protect those who are victims of domestic violence. But I will ask certainly the chair and legislator Imamura to explain the bill in some greater detail. This is the product of legislative review and modification. And sometimes people get frustrated with democracy. Things don't happen quite as fast as they like. At this level of government, I think it happens reasonably fast. But a good idea starts out as an idea, but it has to be shaped into law and legislation, given the authority that the state government and our constitutional chapter and charter gives us the opportunity to do. So we're here today to make a law out of something that is certainly a logical, common sense direction, and I'm very proud that in a few minutes I'll have the opportunity to complete that process as the county executive. But again, we are visitors in the House of our friends in the Board of Legislators, so let me introduce the chair of the Westchester County Board of Legislators, the Honorable Vidat Gashi. Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, County Executive Latimer. I'd like to note, since I was charged with the responsibility of recognizing that we have been joined by legislator Shanae Williams from Yonkers. And County Executive Latimer mentioned it, but this is an idea that came from the legislator. It was specifically legislator David Imamura and championed by David Imamura and legislator Emiliana Ulai, who wasn't able to make it here today. But it was, again, a good idea that started with David Imamura, was represented, or rather was presented to us, and very quickly got wide support across the legislature. I think all of us signing on as co-sponsors, and we found eager and supportive voices in the executive, in George Latimer and Deputy County Executive Ken Jenkins, in Robbie Schlaff in the Office for Women. And I think the bill was made better because of their efforts. The perils of domestic violence are something I think we're all sensitive to. And the idea is that what was found is that the domestic violence victims and tend to be one of the greatest drivers of emergency shelter and transitional housing units care for so many people. The notion that when somebody gets a protective order or custody or some domestic violent incident happens, some people don't have the money or resources to be able to change the locks, to provide for their very safety so they can feel safe in their very homes, was something that I think we all found objectionable and abhorrent. And that's why we passed this bill. And again, it was made better by Robbie Schlaff and so many others coming together and highlighting some other areas we can be helpful, including cameras and other areas, or rather ring cameras and other areas where we can make it better. But I think I'll stop speaking about the specifics of the legislation because the person who came up with the idea is here to do that. And so I think I would now turn it on to Legislator David Imamura.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I want to begin by thanking you, Chairman Gashi, thanking Majority Leader Woodson Samuels, my fellow sponsor, Emiliana Ulai, who could not be here today, and all of my colleagues for their unanimous support of this bill. I also want to thank County Executive Latimer, Deputy County Executive Jenkins, Robbie Schlaff, and your amazing team at the Office for Women, and the County Attorney's Office, I think I saw Shauna back there, for your help and support in making this possible. Lastly, I want to thank the people outside of government, especially my constituent and neighbor, Sandy Kenisher, from the Pace Women's Justice Center, and my colleagues, Amanda Reben and Allison Kariski, for lending their expertise and knowledge for the drafting process. This bill arises from a tragedy that occurred in New Jersey in February of 2020. Ruth Esther Reyes de Severino had successfully obtained a temporary restraining order against her abusive husband. However, when she asked her landlord to change the locks to her apartment, they said no. She asked again and again, not once, not twice, but 5 times. Still, her landlord did nothing. On February 5th, Ruth's husband inserted a key into the apartment's lock, opened the door, and stabbed Ruth and her children to death. The highest calling of any elected official is to help the people who cannot help themselves. And I can think of few populations more in need of help than domestic violence victims. In one study, 40% of people housed in New York City's shelter system were escaping domestic violence at home. At the end of the day, this bill is about safety. The ability to feel safe in your own home and for your children to feel safe where they've grown up. Today, the County of Westchester proudly says to all domestic violence victims, we will help keep you safe. And your safety should not and will not be at the mercy of your landlord or held hostage by your ability to pay for proper protection. Westchester County has you and your families back. So today, this legislation creates not only a program for payment for lock changes, but also for ring cameras, and Robbie Schlaff and Amanda will get into this. But it is a comprehensive program to ensure people's safety. So again, my deepest gratitude to my colleagues in government for making today possible, but most importantly, I want to express my appreciation to the Office for Women, the Pace Women's Justice Center, and all the men and women who are working on the front lines, who dedicate their lives to helping vulnerable populations and will ultimately be the ones implementing this program. So again, thank you so much to all of my colleagues here in government, and I will pass this on to Robbie Schlaff from the Office of Women.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, David. So it's pretty obvious that we have something special in Westchester County. And we talk about this all the time, and Cindy will be speaking as well. We have this incredible coordinated community response to family violence that is a model for not only the state, but the country and the world. And it is because we work together so well, whether it's the Board of Legislators, the District Attorney's Office, the outside contractors like Pace Women's Justice Center, the domestic violence service providers, we all work together to try to provide safety for families that are suffering. And when David had heard about this program in New York City, he said, why don't we have this in Westchester? And we all said, we should. And then the question was how to make it work, and working with the Board of Legislators, the County Exec's Office, the Law Department. We wanted to make it work for Westchester. And when he mentioned the Ring cameras, they don't have that in New York City. I don't know why. But when we talked to survivors, we said, what would you need to be able to stay in your home, not to have to go to a shelter, not to have to upend your family and take them out of the school district and change your entire life? They said, lock changes definitely, windows, lock changes, but also having those cameras and getting someone not only to see them, but also to have that evidence when you go to court for a violation of an order of protection. So that made sense to us, and since we are an incredibly sensible community in Westchester, we said, let's add that to the legislation, and we did. So this is huge. This is something that may seem small. This will have tremendous impact on the families that we serve, all of us, and that we try to keep safe. So thank you, the Board of Legislators, my bosses behind me, these wonderful people. Really appreciate your commitment to safety for women and children in general, victims of domestic violence. Thank you.
Next up, we're going to have two individuals who are activists and activists that help accomplish things. The first is Cindy Canisher, who's the executive director of the Pace Women's Justice Center, and then she will be followed by Amanda Reben, who's the past president of the Westchester Women's Bar Association. First, Cindy.
At the Pace Women's Justice Center, we serve thousands of victims of domestic violence, sexual assault, and elder abuse every year. And I can tell you that when a client comes to us at the center and they've gotten an order of protection, they have so many challenges that they're facing. But top of the list of that challenge is always their own safety and the safety of their children, and worrying about where they're going to live and are they going to be safe where they're living. So knowing that in Westchester County now, there's going to be a program established by this legislation that will ensure that victims of domestic violence who have gotten an order of protection or need safety in their homes, need a lock change, or need a Ring camera, who often can't afford the expense for either of those things, will have the opportunity to get a new lock, or put a security system in their home that will keep them safe, will go a long way for the thousands of people who need it in Westchester County every year, to let them know that when they come home, that they can put their head down at night because they are safe and their children are safe. So we are so grateful at the Women's Justice Center for the county executive and the deputy county executive who support the center and all the clients that we serve, and the Board of Legislators who have really made it a priority to pass this legislation and support so much other work that we do at the Pace Women's Justice Center. We are very lucky to be living in Westchester, as Robbie said, where our government officials are thinking about how we can help some of the most vulnerable people in our communities. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Amanda Reben, and I'm the immediate past president of the Westchester Women's Bar Association. I want to echo everyone's sentiments here this afternoon and thank the Board of Legislators and my colleague David Imamura for making this legislation a priority. I've been working with domestic violence victims for over a decade, and while I've assisted them in court in obtaining orders of protection, exclusive use and occupancy orders for their residents, at the end of the day, these are a piece of paper, and they don't provide all the protection that a victim needs. David Imamura cited to an example of a case in New Jersey, which I think profoundly shows the importance of legislation just like this. There are a number of victims of domestic violence who cannot afford to change their locks, who cannot afford a Ring camera, who cannot afford the invaluable safety measures that this legislation provides. And for that reason, legislation like this is so important to ensure the continued safety of them and their children. And I just want to thank the county for making this a priority.
Thank you, Cindy, and thank you, Amanda. The members of the Board of Legislators all participated in this process through 2 different committees and then vote on it in the group. So we'd like to make sure that every member of the board that would like to be heard has an opportunity to speak on this. We'll create it so that whichever legislator would like to comes up, introduces themselves, says their thoughts, and then defers to the next legislator. I guess, however, out of rank and authority, Ty Woodson Samuels is the majority leader, so we'll let him start it off.
Thank you, County Executive, and good afternoon, everyone. I'm so happy to join you all on this salubrious occasion. I want to say, job well done, my friend David and Mamora, for bringing this common sense piece of legislation to the board. And as majority leader, a lot of pieces of ledge come before me. And I would say this was one of the easier ones to push through. We had unanimous support from day one. And as Robbie mentioned, we actually strengthened the bill. We've done more. We've gone farther than New York City has. And that's what Westchester is all about. So I'm so happy to be here to be in support of this ledge. And I want to give a shout out to legislator Emiliana Ulai, who is also a champion of this bill. And much more to come. But I want to say teamwork makes the dream work. And this is why we're Westchester, y'all. Thank you so much.
Any other legislators, please?
Hi, everyone. I'm Jewel Williams-Johnson, representing District 8, and I chair the Board of Legislators Committee on Budget and Appropriations, as well as the Human Services Committee's Subcommittee on Health. And I can't thank my colleagues and the County Executive's Office enough for this. We all know that societies are measured about and in the way of how they treat and serve their most vulnerable populations. And their fight and their rights should be paramount to all of us who serve in government, and particularly on the Board of Legislators, as we represent over 50,000 people per legislator. The well-being is paramount in what we do for all of the residents of Westchester County. And while many across the nation may wonder whether their local officials are involved in the goal of eradicating the scourge of domestic violence, you can be more than reassured that Westchester is more than caring about this, and not just in words, but as you can see today, also by deed. I want to join in everyone in thanking the awesome director of our Office for Women, Robbie Schlaff, and give a nod to all of the organizations that work in this arena. First Steps to Heal is one that I'm personally more than aware of in my district. My Sister's Place, also in my district. We already heard from the Pace Women's Justice Center, who does phenomenal work. But also Victim Services out of Westcop, that's in my district. And all the available resources that work in this arena to help victims across Westchester County. And we should add that it doesn't matter whether they're male or female. And it's not just the direct hurt of the partner, it's also the children that are affected too. So I thank everyone involved in this, as well as our law department, because they are critical to making sure we get this right. So proud day for us. Thank you very much.
Hello, I'm Nancy Barr. I chair the Committee on Human Services, and I represent Rybrook, Portchester, and Harrison. And I just want to add one little thing. You know, domestic violence is one of those things that does not know any borders, does not, discriminate against color, ethnic group, religion, demographic, economic demographics. And I think, even though we've heard repeatedly, well, this is for people who can't afford to have a lock or a camera, there are plenty of people who live very comfortable lives who, once they are separated in any form from their spouse, are suddenly find themselves without any funds that they can use for themselves or their children. So even those people, can benefit from this law. And I really, really am thankful to David and all my colleagues and everyone else who's been mentioned for bringing this forward and for getting this done. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm Legislator Erica Pierce in the 2nd District, which includes Mount Kisco, Bedford, Lewisboro, Pound Ridge, North Salem, and Somers. And Nancy stole my thunder. I really did want to speak to that issue because this is an issue that knows no zip code. Every place in this county faces this issue, and every family member or family grouping that is caught in this issue finds themselves without resources. And remember also that financial control is an aspect of domestic violence and spousal abuse. So the addition as well of the Ring camera really makes a huge difference in my neck of the woods, where yes, locks are important, but being able to see what's coming at you is so important. And for families with children, being able to keep children in their school district while they're going through this crisis is also extremely important. And so this legislation makes that one step easier for those families in those incredibly stressful moments. So all my gratitude to everybody, as mentioned previously, especially Robbie Schlaff, of course, who has been excellent up in our part of the world and knows well that my area, again, like every other area of the county, has definitely had its struggles when it comes to domestic violence. So thank you so much, colleagues. Job well done.
I don't know if I'm the closer here, but I will say, just to add one point, as legislators, we get asked all the time, why do we have county government? This is why we have county government, to make really exceptional policy that protects all the residents of Westchester County. And to echo what my colleagues have said, there is no zip code that isn't faced with this issue. I also want to touch upon what Robbie Schlaff said and really put an exclamation to that point. The other question that we get asked as legislators is, my taxes, everything costs something. The point of this legislation also, while there's no cost to the person that's suffering from domestic violence, it's the long-term, what we can be preventative about, having to save that family from relocation, going into the shelter system and helping in that regard. This is much more cost-effective. And we look at everything through that lens in county government so that we are, again, providing exceptional service at the best cost. And this legislation just extenuates that. And so I want to thank Legislator Mamora again for bringing it forward. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm David Tubiolo, proudly representing the great cities of Mount Vernon and Yonkers. And I just want to say a special thank you to the two main sponsors, David here and Emiliana. They've been freshmen, but they've been hitting the ground running. And I can't say enough good things about them, my colleagues, and the leadership as well, with the majority leader in the chair and everyone else, and everyone behind me and the team and the staff. We're truly making Westchester the best Chester. And that's really what it's about, making people safe, making people feel and know that they can have a place to go and they have protection and they have a place to be not just safe, but I think it was mentioned financial, emotional, physical, that there's so many different parameters. And this is great legislation. This is really a step that I have to say it's beyond common sense. I just want to thank David and Liana, and from the bottom of my heart, great job. Thank you.
Thank you, Westchester County Legislator James Nolan, District 15, Yonkers, Bronxville, and Eastchester. It's an honor to be here today. Well, first, I want to say congratulations to my colleague and all departments, everybody involved, advocates, and quite often in our government, you see politics playing a part. This is a case where that was not a part of it. This was an absolute no-brainer because, in a bipartisan effort, you brought this forward, and I have no problem supporting it just like everybody else here because this is a sad situation that cannot occur anymore, and we, as elected officials, owe a great responsibility to our constituents to protect and also serve in our best ability. So thank you once again for bringing this forward. It's an amazing legislation, and I'm happy to support it. So thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Shanae Williams. I represent District 16, which is in Yonkers, New York. And I wasn't going to speak today because this is a very challenging topic for me. I get a little overwhelmed because my sister is a domestic violence survivor. And just seeing what she went through and how she ended up in the hospital, almost died. And just knowing how difficult it is for victims to get out of that space. You've heard it from my colleagues before. This is about safety. This is about saving lives. And I don't know what I would have done if I had lost my sister to something like this. So I'm just so grateful for my colleagues for bringing this forward and for us all standing in support of this because it is so important. That's all I want to say. Just thank you, thank you, thank you. We're saving lives.
I'm Judah Holstein, County Legislator for District 10, Eastchester, Tuckahoe, and New Rochelle. I think I am actually the last speaker today, which puts me in the unique position of not being able to really contribute a whole lot more than everything that has already been said, other than to echo the amazing gratitude that I have for my colleagues for passing this. Even though I served in a school board position in the government for 10 years before I got on the county legislator, we never got the chance to pass any kind of legislation that actually was anything like this. I mean, we always, my goal in becoming a legislator was exactly to be able to pass a law that will protect people, women, children, men, anyone who is a victim of violence like this, and keep them at home and keep them with their families and keep them out of the system with an ROI. I mean, what better way to celebrate, if you will, becoming a legislator? So I'm honored to be a part of this. I thank you. I thank all the people who were involved in making this happen, and I'm grateful to be a part of it. So thank you.
I'll be signing this into law in just a second, and as we always have ceremonial pens, I'm going to present them to some of the individuals here for their great work on this. The last time we were here to sign a bill into law, which was generated by the legislature, was Legislator Pierce and Legislator Barr's environmental bill from a year ago. And I think briefly in terms of content and then process. The content of this bill has been spoken to. I think Shanae's comments are probably the most profound of all when you deal with the personal impact of what domestic violence can mean on someone that you love. We've all seen it or heard stories about this, and this is a step in the right direction, and I know that the work of this legislature along with this administration will continue to do that as we go forward. The other one is one of process, and as I stand in this rotunda, as I have for over 30 years of my life, I think of the first time I walked down this hallway, I was a very young man when I first sat here as a legislator. Now, of course, the world has turned and given me the opportunity to sign into law something that a legislator has created. And I think this is really what democracy is. This is what it ought to be. It ought to be individuals who get elected from different parts of the county. They have different backgrounds. They have different philosophies. There are times when we all disagree, but there are times when we can find common ground. And on the process, this happens. And when it happens, as it does on an environmental issue, in this case, on a domestic violence issue, and for the issues that were yet ahead of us, this is what we try to put forward in saying that we the people define what it is that should be right for our society. And we do it in a way to help people. And I'm very grateful that the opportunity has come for me to have this chance to sign this into law. And I look at the long flow that is represented in this chamber well before I was even of age to vote, all the way through my time here, and now the current people who are here now, that we want this to continue. We want this process of intelligent legislation, working closely with an executive branch, listening to what people say, trying to do the right thing. If we can do that in this county, there's no reason why we can't do it at the larger level. So let me sign this into law.
Yes, Cindy. Yeah, you can Cindy.
I'm still learning the art of signing this into law with enough pens. It's not as simple as it may seem. Today is, what date is today?
Today is the
18th, okay. So this bill that's in front of us is Act 124, 2024. It's been passed by the Board of Legislators of the County of Westchester by 17 votes in favor and 0 votes against, and this was passed on the 17th day of June, yesterday. And it's been certified by Belika Vandenberg, who's the clerk of the County Board of Legislators. And now it is before me on this, the 18th day of the month of June, 2024. I'm about to break up my signature into pieces. In any event, by the power vested in me as county executive, granted to me by the citizens of Westchester County, this act is now law in Westchester County. I would like to present one of these pens to David M. Moore for his work. Thank you, Mr. Legislator. I'm going to set one aside for Miliana Ulay so that she will have the opportunity to enjoy that. On behalf of the Board of Legislators, Mr. Chairman Vedat Gashi. One to Cindy Canisher, representing the advocacy of all of the organizations that have helped make that happen. Cindy. And one to Robbie Schlaff, who has worked in this issue long before my administration, and I'm sure many years into the future, for your leadership. Thank you. Thank you all very much, and as I always like to say, I'll be back to sign more good legislation as soon as you pass it. Thank you all very much. Have a wonderful day.